You have felt it before. That pull, magnetic, almost gravitational, towards someone who seemed to see you in a way no one else ever had. Someone whose presence filled the room, whose words landed like prophecy, whose need for you felt in some secret part of your chest, like purpose. And then slowly, the warmth became a demand. The admiration became control. The connection you thought was sacred revealed itself as something else entirely. A transaction, a feeding. And here is the question that haunts you in the quiet hours, the one you are almost afraid to ask aloud. Why does this keep happening to me? If you are someone who feels things deeply, who absorbs the emotions of others like light through water, who gives without measuring, who would rather wound yourself than wound someone you love, then this video is not just for you. It was made for you. Because what you are about to hear is not a simple explanation of toxic relationships. It is something older and stranger and far more liberating. It is a map drawn from the depths of the human psyche, the map that the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung spent his entire life drafting. And that map reveals something both unsettling and profoundly beautiful. The empath and the narcissist are not opposites, they are mirrors. Stay with me. Carl Gustav Jung was born in 1875 in a small Swiss village, the son of a pastor, a man of spirit, living inside a world of doctrine. From childhood, Jung felt the tension between the outer world people presented and the inner world they desperately concealed. He called what lives in that concealment the shadow, the repository of everything we have been taught to deny about ourselves, the aspects of our nature we buried in the dark basement of the unconscious, because the world, or our families, or our own fear, told us they were unacceptable. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That sentence is the key to everything you are about to understand. Because Jung also gave us the concept of psychological projection, the way we cast our own unacknowledged inner material onto others. And he gave us the architecture of the psyche's archetypes, the deep, ancient patterns that repeat themselves not just in myths and dreams, but in the relationships we choose. The empath-narcissist dynamic is not an accident of bad luck. It is not a character flaw. It is an archetypal encounter, one written into the very grammar of the unconscious mind. And once you understand why it happens, something extraordinary occurs. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of the pattern, and you start seeing yourself as someone with the power to end it. Let us go deeper. The first thing Jung would want you to understand is this: you did not fall for the narcissist despite your sensitivity. You fell for them because of it. Here is what that means. Empaths, truly sensitive, deeply feeling people, do not usually arrive at adulthood without carrying something. A childhood where love felt conditional. A home where emotions were either explosive or completely invisible. A message absorbed before you had language to question it that said, your worth is measured by how much you give. Jung called this the wound of the persona, the gap between who we truly are and the mask we learn to wear to survive the world's expectations. The empath learned to wear the mask of the selfless one, the healer, the one who holds space. Because that role, that beautiful, exhausting role, earned love in a world where simply being did not feel like enough. Now, enter the narcissist. On the surface, the narcissist appears to be the empath's opposite. Confident, commanding, unaffected. They wear a very different mask. The mask of invulnerability, of grandiosity, of absolute self-sufficiency. But here is the Jungian truth that shatters the illusion. Beneath the narcissist's mask lives the same wound. child who learned that weakness was dangerous. That vulnerability brought punishment, not comfort. That love was performance. That the only safe way to exist was to become untouchable, magnificent, needed, impossible to ignore. The empath senses this wound immediately, not consciously, but in the way a tuning fork vibrates when the right note is struck nearby. This is not foolishness. This is not naivety. This is the extraordinary sensitivity of an attuned nervous system, recognizing a familiar frequency. And in that recognition, something activates deep within the empath, the ancient, almost sacred belief. If I love this person well enough, I can heal what broke them. Jung called this the savior complex embedded in the shadow, the unconscious belief that our own worth is proven not by being loved, but by transforming someone unlovable. The narcissist, in turn, recognizes in the empath something they have amputated from themselves, the capacity to feel. And they are drawn to it the way a drought is drawn to water, not to be nourished equally, but to consume. Two wounds, two masks, one catastrophic collision. And the tragedy is not that it happens. The tragedy is that no one ever told you what was actually occurring beneath the surface. Until now, Jung observed something about human beings that is both deeply humbling and wildly liberating. We do not see people as they are. We see them as we are. This is the mechanism of psychological projection, and it is the invisible architecture of nearly every intense relationship you have ever had. Here is how it operates in the empath-narcissist dynamic and why it is so devastatingly effective. The empath, by nature, has done profound emotional work, consciously or not. They have sat with pain. They have developed the capacity for compassion, for nuance, for holding contradiction. They have, in many ways, developed what Jung called a wide conscious container, a psyche large enough to hold multiple truths at once. But here is what the empath has often not done. They have not claimed their own power, their own assertiveness, their own entitlement to space, to needs, to the right to be difficult sometimes. These qualities, deemed dangerous or selfish, were pushed into the empath's shadow long ago. And then, the narcissist walks in, bold, unapologetic, occupying space with the ease of someone who has never once questioned their right to exist loudly. The empath does not simply admire this quality, they are magnetically compelled by it. Because what we are most drawn to in another person is almost always the disowned quality within ourselves. Jung wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But that magnetism cuts both ways. The narcissist, who has buried their vulnerability, their tenderness, their capacity for genuine connection deep in their own shadow, looks at the empath and feels something ancient and threatening stir. Here is someone who can feel, who is not afraid of depth, who radiates the very thing the narcissist has sealed behind a wall of ego. So the narcissist projects their disowned vulnerability onto the empath, and then alternately worships and despises them for it. Idolization and devaluation. The classic narcissistic cycle. It is not random cruelty. It is a psyche at war with its own reflection. The empath keeps trying to reach the feeling person they sensed behind the mask, because they did sense something real. They were not wrong about the wound. They were only wrong about one thing. It is not their wound to heal. The moment you understand that you were drawn to your own disowned power, and that the narcissist was drawn to their own disowned softness, the spell begins to break. This is not victimhood. This is awakening. Now we enter some of the most profound and most misunderstood territory in all of Jungian psychology. Jung proposed that within every human psyche exists an inner counterpart, a figure of the opposite. In those who identify as predominantly masculine in their outer expression, this inner figure is called the anima, the soul image, feminine in nature, the carrier of depth, feeling, and connection to the unconscious. In those who identify as predominantly feminine in their outer expression, this inner figure is called the animus, the inner masculine, the carrier of direction, assertion, will, and the capacity to act in the world. These are not simply gender concepts, they are archetypal energies, and they are the most powerful forces driving who we fall in love with. Because here is what Jung discovered, and what most of us learn only through tremendous heartbreak. We do not fall in love with a person. We fall in love with our own anima, or animus, the inner figure we have projected onto that person's face. The empath, by nature, has a powerfully activated inner life. They have access to depth, to feeling, to the unconscious in ways that most people do not. But their animus, or anima, their inner counterpart, often carries qualities they have suppressed: strength, authority, perhaps even a certain magnificent selfishness. And the narcissist, walking into their life wearing those exact qualities on the outside, triggers the projection of that inner figure. The empath is not just attracted to the narcissist. They are encountering, in the narcissist's face, a vision of their own unlived self. This is why the early stages of these relationships feel transcendent, almost mythological, like recognition beyond logic, like you have found something you did not know you had lost. You have, but what you found was not them. It was a fragment of you. Jung called this kind of projection-driven love participation mystique, emerging so complete that the boundary between self and other dissolves. It is ecstatic and it is devastating in equal measure. The path forward, and this is where Jung's wisdom becomes not just beautiful but medicinal, is to withdraw the projection, to look at what you adored in the narcissist, the confidence, the power, the certainty, and ask yourself, not how do I find someone who has this, but rather, how do I cultivate this within myself? When the empath begins to integrate their own animus, when they stop outsourcing their unlived qualities to someone incapable of cherishing them, that is the moment the pattern ends, not before. In the great mythological traditions that Jung spent his life studying, from Greek tragedy to Norse myth, from alchemical texts to fairy tales, certain stories repeat with uncanny precision. One of the most ancient is the story of the wounded king and the healing presence who comes to restore him. You may know it from Arthurian legend. The Fisher King, wounded and waiting in a ruined castle, the kingdom barren around him, awaiting the one pure knight who will ask the right question and break the curse. This is not just legend. This is the empath-narcissist dynamic in archetypal form. The narcissist, in the Jungian reading, often carries the energy of the wounded king, a figure of enormous power who has been catastrophically wounded, whose kingdom, inner life, is desolate, and who is trapped in a castle of ego, waiting, unconsciously, desperately waiting for someone to reach them. The empath carries the energy of the healer, the one who instinctively senses the wounded king's pain and believes with a faith that moves mountains that their love, their devotion, their endless patience can restore what was broken. Jung would say, this is one of the most sacred impulses of the human soul, and it is also one of the most dangerous, because the wounded king, in the myth, cannot be healed by the healer's sacrifice. He can only be healed by asking a particular question himself, the question of genuine self-reflection, the the question that requires him to turn inward rather than outward for his salvation. And the narcissist, by psychological definition, is someone who has built an entire architecture of self to avoid that question. The empath gives more. The narcissist takes more. The kingdom does not bloom. And in the wreckage, the empath often asks, "What did I do wrong? How could I have loved better? What did I miss?" This is the cruelest feature of the archetypal trap. It turns the empath's greatest gift, their capacity for devotion, against them. Jung wrote that neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. The narcissist's entire structure is built to avoid the suffering of genuine self-confrontation. And the empath, in loving them, in excusing them, in endlessly reframing their behavior, becomes, without knowing it, the enabler of that avoidance. The healing work, then, is not to love less. It is to redirect that extraordinary healing capacity inward, to become the healer of your own inner wounded kingdom. That is the quest the myth was always pointing you toward. We arrive now at the place where Jung's philosophy refuses to leave you broken. Because in the Jungian framework, nothing that happens in the deep life of the psyche is accidental. Every recurring pattern, every seemingly irrational attraction, every relationship that cracked you open against your will, these are not cosmic punishments. They are invitations. Jung called the process of becoming fully, authentically, deeply oneself individuation, the lifelong journey toward wholeness. Not perfection, not the absence of darkness, wholeness, the integration of light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, the capacity to love and the wisdom to have limits. And here is the radical, almost audacious truth that Jung would offer you today. The empath-narcissist relationship is one of the most powerful catalysts for individuation that the psyche can generate, not because it was good for you, not because you deserved the pain, but because the pain was the pressure that might, if you choose, crack you open into something larger than you were before. Think about what this relationship forced you to confront. Your belief that love requires self-erasure, your terror of abandonment, your unconscious conviction that your needs are too much, your disowned power, the anger you never allowed yourself to feel, the boundaries you never believed you deserved to set. Every one of those confrontations is shadow material rising into the light. Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." The narcissist, in their ruthless unconsciousness, did something your gentler relationships never could. They pushed you to the edge of yourself. And at that edge, you were given a choice that most people never receive so clearly. Continue to abandon yourself in the hope of being chosen, or choose yourself, perhaps for the very first time. The empath who walks through this fire and does the inner work does not emerge hardened. They emerge boundaried, sovereign, capable of a love that does not cost them their soul, because they have finally learned that their soul is not a currency. The narcissist was not your punishment. They were, in the most difficult and grace-filled sense of the word, your teacher, not because they were wise, but because your encounter with them made it impossible to keep sleeping. And now, standing here, watching this, asking these questions, you are awake. Here is what I want you to carry from this video. You are not broken because you loved deeply. You are not foolish because you saw potential in someone who could not fulfill it. You are not weak because you stayed longer than you should have. You were following an ancient inner script, one written in the language of the unconscious, in the grammar of archetypes, in the logic of a psyche that was always trying to move you towards wholeness. Jung believed, and I believe, that the greatest act of courage available to a human being is not bravery on a battlefield. It is the willingness to turn inward, to face what lives in the dark, to reclaim what you abandon, to ask yourself, with genuine compassion and genuine ferocity, who am I when I stop performing for someone else's comfort? That question is the beginning of everything. If this video reached something in you, if it named something you have carried without language for a long time, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to The Awakened Mind, because this work, the work of Carl Jung, of depth psychology, of radical self-understanding, is the work that changes not just how you see your relationships. It changes how you see yourself, and that changes everything. The examined life is the only life worth living. Until next time, go inward.